The anti-polygamy argument is scripturally dishonest. If polygamy were sin, Torah would say so. Why isolating Genesis 2:24 while ignoring Torah is not serious Bible reading. The appeal to Genesis 2:24, as though it settles the entire question against plural marriage, is much stronger in English than it is in careful scriptural reading. Yes, the Hebrew there is singular, his wife, not his wives. The word is singular. That part is true. But what does that actually prove? It proves that the verse describes a man cleaving to his wife. It does not prove that Torah everywhere else forbids a man from having more than one wife. That conclusion is being imported into the text, not drawn from all of Scripture together. If Genesis 2:24 were meant to function as an absolute prohibition against plural marriage in all cases, then the Torah given by God would not go on to regulate situations where a man has more than one wife. But it does. Exodus 21:10 says, "If he take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage, shall he not diminish?" That is not a denunciation of the arrangement as inherently unlawful. It is a command that if a man takes another wife, he remains under covenant obligation to the first. God does not say there, "This is an abomination and must never happen." He gives law governing righteousness within that circumstance. The same is true in Deuteronomy 21:15. If a man have two wives, one beloved, and another hated. Again, the law does not pretend such a case cannot exist under Israelite covenant life. It legislates justice and inheritance, so that favoritism does not overturn the rights of the firstborn. That is what Torah does. It governs real covenant order. The text assumes the existence of multiple wives, and then commands righteousness within it. That means the argument cannot honestly be, Genesis says wife singular, therefore God condemned all plural marriage. Singular language in Genesis 2:24 does not erase the legal material that follows in Torah. Scripture must be read with Scripture. A singular noun in a creation statement does not nullify explicit covenant legislation that addresses additional wives. Some object by saying Genesis gives the ideal. Very well, but even that must be proved, not assumed. And even if one argues for a creation pattern, the fact remains that God himself gave laws regulating plural marriage among his covenant people. So the question is not whether Genesis 2:24 uses the singular. It does. The question is whether that singular form can be used to cancel the rest of Torah. It cannot. This is where many readers become selective. They appeal to the singular in Genesis, but then ignore that Abraham, Jacob, Moses' era law, and the broader household structures of Israel do not fit their modern assumptions. If plural marriage were inherently immoral in every case, why is there no plain Torah command saying, "Thou shalt not have more than one wife"? Why instead do we find laws that govern the treatment of another wife, the rights of two wives, and the obligations owed within such homes? The truth is simple. Genesis 2:24 teaches cleaving, covenant union, and the formation of a household. It does not by itself function as a universal ban on every form of plural marriage. The Hebrew does not say wives there, but neither does that singular form prove what polygamy deniers want it to prove. Torah itself shows that the matter is more complex, because God legislated for it. So no, it is not faithful handling of Scripture to quote cleave unto his wife, as though that one singular noun erases Exodus 21:10 and Deuteronomy 21:15. A man can be commanded to cleave to his wife without that verse becoming a denial of every later law God gave concerning additional wives. The denier's argument depends on isolating one verse from the larger legal and covenantal witness of the text. If the goal is to follow Scripture instead of inherited tradition, then the honest conclusion is this: Genesis 2:24 is singular in Hebrew, but Torah still contains God-given instructions that regulate plural marriage. That means the verse cannot honestly be used as a simplistic proof text to declare that God never allowed multiple wives under his law.